Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar on home buying basics. My name is Renee McElroy. I am the founder and CEO of Touchstones Financial Wellness Services, and I'd like to welcome you to this webinar. I will be your presenter for today. As you know, buying a home is exciting and probably one of the most important financial decisions that you will make during your lifetime. Um, and you definitely do not want to rush into this most important decision. Tonight, I am going to go over some of the basic information that's involved in home buying, in the home buying process. I definitely want you to make sure you take this information that you are listening to on this webinar and use it as a tool, but not the only thing that you have. Make sure that you take it with you and use it along with other information that you can get from um, realtors, other home buying classes that are out there that are given by the state and the county that can help you make this important decision. Um, let me tell you a little bit about Touchstone's Financial Wellness Services. Touchstone Financial Wellness Services is a financial wellness organization that provides both one-on-one financial counseling as well as financial literacy education. All of our services are free. You can go on our website, which will be given to you at the end of this webinar, that you can find all of the information that you need, that not only this webinar, but additional webinars on financial topics that will help you make your financial decisions, as well as offer you financial education that can help you with increasing your financial knowledge. Now, let's look at one of the age-old questions about, is renting or owning better for you? Now, let's look at 1 in 9 Americans move every year. Whether to rent or buy depends on your individual preferences and what you can afford. In the short term, renting is usually less expensive than buying. Now, in the long term, however, the opposite is usually true. Now, let's look at cost of renting a house. Now, when we look at the cost of renting, you look at rent, you look at the deposit, you look at first and sometimes second month's rent, and you look at damage and security deposit for loss. Now, when renting, you have to consider the monthly rental cost, as well as the damage and security deposits. You may be required to pay a damage deposit, a security deposit, as well as first and last month's rent. For example, an apartment with $1,100 rental cost for first month's rent and last month's rent, as well as 1,100 security deposit and 1,100 damage deposit, will cost you in an amount of 4,400 to move into. This does not include the fees that could be assessed for features such as the use of facilities like a clubhouse and a pool, tennis courts, an exercise facility, the Wi-Fi or cable and internet service, as well as spaces for storage and parking and association of condo fees. Now, we must also consider the written lease contracts. Please note that whether you are renting or a house or an apartment, renting is important to have a formal written lease. A lease will allow you to identify the amount of the rent and security deposit, the length of the lease, typically 1 year, payment responsibilities for utilities and repairs, as well as penalties for late payment of rent, eviction procedures for non-payment of rent, and procedures to follow when the lease ends. Now, be sure to read your lease prior to signing, especially with regards to lease restrictions. Now, let's also look at the cost of buying a house. Now, there are several costs related to buying, as well as what we've seen with the cost of renting a house. Now, let's review those costs. First of all, you have upfront payments, such as closing costs, attorney's fees, and titles. You have property tax, you have your mortgage, you have your interest, and you have your mortgage insurance. So let's discuss those costs a little bit. Let's look at that. Now, owning a home means more than just trading a rental payment for a mortgage payment. New homeowners are often surprised by the extra cost of owning property, including insurance, the taxes, an association of condo fee. Now, you also have repair costs, upkeep, and may want to make improvements and upgrades. Now, in addition, you have your monthly mortgage payments and expenses that you normally pay when you rented, such as utilities, water, cable, and phone. A bigger space may need new furnishings or appliances. Now let's consider who pays more, renters or homeowners. Now, affordable housing. Now, when we're considering affordable housing, you want to consider that you do not want to pay any more than 30% of your disposable income. Now, that's the income that goes towards your rent or your mortgage. Now, in addition, moderately considered rent burden is 30% to 50%. Severely considered rent burden is 50% or more. Now, currently, more than 12 million renters and homeowners pay more than 50% of their disposable income towards their rent or mortgage. Now, a family with one full-time worker earning the minimum wage cannot afford the local fair market rent for a two-bedroom apartment anywhere in the United States. Now, renting, like ownership, is considered affordable only if one does not pay more than 30%. And currently, we can see that there are more than 12 million of renters and homeowners that are paying more than 50% of their annual income on housing. So it's very important for us to really look at how can we afford rent or even mortgage on our homes during this time. So let's look at what is the cost of buying a home right now. There are many costs associated with buying a home, as you can see. Now, these costs are what you would pay as a home buyer up front. These costs don't include what you would pay after you own your home. So these are upfront costs that you are paying just to buy your home. And they include the down payment, the points, the attorney's fees, the title search, title insurance for the lender, as well as title insurance for the buyer, the cost for getting your credit reports, the cost for the home inspection, the cost to record the deed, and the cost for the appraisal. It also includes the cost to have a termite inspection. It includes the cost to have the lot surveyed. It includes the home title transfer, to have your title transferred over into the new name. It includes the notary fee, as well as any other additional cost. Now, the total for these upfront costs can be upwards of $32,000. And as I said, these costs do not include your monthly cost for the property tax, the homeowner's insurance, your mortgage insurance, or just paying your mortgage. So as I said, for all of these costs, just exactly what are you paying for all of this? What does all of this include? So your down payment is the initial payment that you make towards the purchase of the home. So you have to put down a down payment. Now, not everyone does a down payment, but the down payment helps to lower your mortgage insurance. Okay. There are also points. Now, the points are the interest fee, which can equal up to 1% of the total loan amount. Okay. There's also attorney fees. You pay attorneys to review the loan documents and to advise you. There's also the title insurance and the insurance in general. Now, this protects the buyer, you, against any wrongdoing, okay, with regard to the property. You also pay the home inspection. You want to conduct an inspection of the home to make sure the house is sound, that it's physically sound. You don't want to get a home that once you get into the home, you find out later that the house wasn't up to code. You definitely want to have the home inspected, and for most states, it's required. You also pay, the appraisal fee. The appraisal fee is where someone comes in and appraises the home to make sure what the fair market value of the home is. Okay, you don't want to be paying more for the home than what the home is worth. And then you have mortgage insurance. This is required to make sure that this is what the lender requires you to have. All right, to make sure that the buyer isn't going to forfeit on the loan, and then the lender is left without being paid what the loan is left holding the bag on the loan. So that's why you get mortgage insurance. So reasons to rent and buy. Okay, so why do people choose to rent, and why do people choose to buy? Again, it's a personal choice why people choose to rent or buy. Most of the top reasons why people choose to rent is, one, it's easy mobility. People can pick up and leave when they want. Avoid responsibility associated with buying. They're not responsible for a loan. They don't have that responsibility. Again, they just have that lease, and some people go month to month on a lease. That way, they can leave, really pick up and leave. And a lot of times, military people choose to do that. So yeah, especially if they are military, if they are contractors, they like having that ease of being able to pick up and go. Again, wanting temporary living conditions, depending on your job, the way you like to live. Sometimes you want to be able to get up. You have to, or you want to be able to get up and go. And then some people, they like having their cash freed up. They don't like having their cash tied into that huge responsibility of having to pay for something for 30 years. So again, it's a personal preference. So reasons to buy a house. Why would someone want to buy property, buy a house? Well, one, receive annual income tax advantage. Again, you get a lot of tax advantages when you buy a home, when you buy property. Again, a lot of people increase living space. A lot of this is when people get married and their family is increasing. They need that added space, okay? And then another reason, they improve their financial situation. They obtain ownership and wealth through equity. And again, a lot of people buy a home, especially people who are getting younger in that age frame, and they want that ownership of home, and your home does um, earn equity, and you earn wealth in that equity. So, for example, if you buy a home in your mid-20s, and that home is, you may buy a home at 150,000. Well, as you are living in that home and you are aging with that home, well, that home is earning equity as you are paying that home off, and it is gaining in value. So that $150,000 home that you bought, um, you know, in 20 years, that home may value at $300,000 as you are paying it off. So once you are, maybe in 10 years or 15 years, as you are paying it, that home has now doubled in the price that you paid for it. So you have gained the equity in that home, and you may sell it, you may take the equity out of it and move up, or it may be something that you are leaving to your children, and they have the equity and wealth in it. So that's where that's one of the reasons why people will buy property. So 3 factors that affect buying your home. So when you are ready to look at buying a home, you do have to look at 3 factors that may affect your ability to buy your home. And a lot of what I do tell people when they are in that stage of getting ready to look at buying a home, I tell them, well, look at these 3 factors when you're getting ready. One is insufficient income. So you want to assess your ability to repay the requested loan, okay? So your rent should not be more than 28% of your monthly gross income and your total debt. So including your rent and other installment payments, you don't want to be more than 28%, okay? At 28%. So that's factor 1 when you're thinking about, okay, I'm ready to buy a home. I'm in that stage. I want to be able to buy a home. So that's factor 1. Factor 2, too many debts. So you want to evaluate your debt to income ratio. Okay, so you don't want to have extensive use of your credit cards and revolving debt accounts. You want your utilization to be under at 36% or less, or no higher than 43%. You really want to have it at 36%. So you want your account balances that are close to the issuer's debt limits. Okay, so you want to look at that too. So review your debt to income ratio. And then number 3, unsatisfactory credit history. Okay, so what you want to do is review your credit report. Okay, and you want to take a look and see if it shows frequent late charges, frequent past due accounts, judgments, or bankruptcy. And you want to start working on fixing those issues on your credit report. So those three factors. So if you are at the stage that you want to start looking at buying your home, then look at those three factors, because those are three factors that limit or keep individuals from being able to obtain a home loan. So those are things that you want to be able to look at and to work on before going to a lender. All right. So here are the steps that you want to take on your home buying journey. So here's some steps, the steps that you want to take. So as I said, step one, you want to get your finances in order. Okay. So like I said, estimate all of your expected monthly housing costs. So one, what are you paying now? What are you paying right now for your housing cost? All right. So you want to estimate that, because if you are having trouble paying your housing costs now, then you may have trouble paying a mortgage. Okay. So that's something that you want to think about, and then think about adjusting your budget to fit the cost that you expect to pay. Okay. Number two, clean up your credit history and improve your FICO score. So an optimal score for a home loan is between 740 and 700, with a rate of 3.7 to 3.9, with an average score ranging from 680 to 640 for a rate of 4.1 to 4.8. So what you would like to do is to, one, get your rate as low as possible when you are going to a lender. So you want your FICO score to be as optimal as possible. And in order for you to do that, you want to have your credit be as clean as it can be. And as I said in the slide before, you want to review your credit and to fix whatever issues that are on there prior to you even going to a lender, so that you know that your score is as optimal as you can get it. Average is good, but optimal is always better. And ensure that your credit bureau, that your file is as accurate as possible, and request any updates or corrections as necessary. All of this should be done prior to you going to a lender. All right. The third step is pre-qualifying for a mortgage. Okay. You want to shop for the best rates. You want to estimate affordability using front and back end ratios. And remember what I said in the slide before, you want to be looking at your debt to income ratios. You want to be looking at that, and you also want to be looking at that front end ratio as well as that back end ratio. You want to be looking at both of those ratios, and you want to consult several lenders, okay, as well as mortgage brokers. But as you see, this is step 3. You want to do step 1 and step 2 before you look at step 3. And then step 4 is shop for your home online and in person. Now, as you can see, the PITI is your mortgage, your principal, your taxes, and interest. Now, a mortgage loan requires you to pay the following monthly charges. Okay, this is after you do your down payment. This is what you are going to be paying a month, okay? This is your principal, your interest, and your taxes, okay? Your taxes and your homeowner's insurance. Okay, so the principal is the amount that you owe. Your interest is the amount paid to the lender. And then your real estate taxes and your homeowner's insurance, that is kept in an escrow until it is paid out to the third party. So your taxes are your taxes paid to the county and the state, and then your homeowner's insurance is what is paid out. So again, as I said, your debt to income ratio is how much are your total monthly debts. Now, it's your monthly debts, not your debt overall. So how much are you paying monthly? So you have your car payment, your credit cards, your student loans, and other fixed monthly payments that you're making. And then when you're figuring out your debt to income ratio, you have how much is your gross income, okay? And then you're going to multiply this by 100 to calculate your current debt to income ratio. And as I said, the recommendation for this is no more than 36% or less. Now, some lenders will go up to 43%, but you really want to try and keep to 36%, okay? And then if you are above that 36%, look and see what changes do you need to make. What do you need to pay down? Look at your credit cards and see what you need to pay down. I tell people, try and pay down or pay off any credit cards that you have that you can do. See what you can do with your student loan. But a lot of it is really tied to their credit cards. When that debt to income ratio is high, a lot of it is usually paid tied to those credit cards. So, and a lot of people ask me, so why is that important? Why is credit important? Why is paying down my credit cards important? Lenders use your credit scores and the information on your credit report to determine whether you qualify for a loan and what interest rate you offer. And why is that important? Because your credit shows your character and how you manage your finances, okay? So check your credit report early on to prevent any unpleasant surprises. Like I said, if look think about step 1 and step 2, and even the slides that I talked about before. You want to fix that information before you're going to the lender, okay? Look at your finances. Look at your finances ahead of time. Take care of that. Take care of anything that you need to take care of before going to the lender, okay? High scores represent a better credit history, and it also makes the lender look at your character a lot better, and it makes you eligible for lower interest rates, okay? And during this time, the lower your interest rate you can get, the better loan you qualify for. And while there are no firm rules about exactly how your credit score affects the interest rates, you may be offered for a home loan in general based on how high the credit score you come in there with, okay? The best rates go to the borrowers with credit scores in the mid to high 700s or above. Those borrowers typically also have the most choices available to them, okay? Borrowers with credit scores in the high 600s to the low 700s usually will sometimes pay a higher rate and will not be offered the best properties. Now, here are a few tips for managing debt. If you do find that, you're coming into this with a little higher debt, some people resolve their financial problems with discipline and self-control. Others seek help from nonprofit financial counseling services. A debt management plan will include these, several steps. You want to review your income and expenses. You want to determine who and how much you owe. You want to set up a plan for paying your debts, and you want to decide when and how much you can pay. A lot of people tend to go to debt management companies and debt repayment companies. Yes, they may help some people, but a lot of times people will come out of them either owing more money or getting back into debt through reusing credit cards, and they end up owing more than they did before. Recommendation is working with a accredited financial counselor can help you create a debt management plan that is personalized for you and that puts you in control. When you have control of your plan, you are able to not only gain the knowledge of how to manage your financial world, but also you are able to change things when you need to change them, and also you can make better choices for your personal financial life. Now, avoiding pitfalls. Now, buying a home is a big financial decision. And now you've looked at your finances and estimated how much you can afford to pay for a home, and you've considered whether now is the right time for you to buy. Now, the home price you can afford depends on 4 key factors. 1, how much you can pay monthly. 2, how much can you pay upfront in a down payment. 3, the kind of loan you can get. For example, whether you need a 30-year fixed, a 30-year adjustable, a 15-year fixed, or something in between. And 4, the interest rate and terms that you can get. Now, before you start home shopping, you want to take a close look at your current spending. For most people, buying a new home means taking on new expenses, whether you are currently renting or whether you already own a home and you're looking to upgrade. Now, you need a clear understanding of how much you're currently spending to decide on what you can comfortably afford to spend on a new home. Now, you don't edit your budget to reflect what you could or should be spending. The goal here is to assess what you are spending and how much you need to change in order to make the future work. What you don't want to do is buy more house than you can afford. Now, what you need to do is consider whether, 1, it is the right time for you to buy. Understand the risk and responsibilities of homeownership. And decide whether this is the right time for you. Now, your home value could decline, and you could lose equity or even owe more than your home is worth. In some situations, it may be better to rent. If your employment is currently short-term or unstable, owning a home is a big financial commitment. If you're not confident that you can continue earning a similar income for the foreseeable future, it might make more sense to keep renting. And if there's a chance you might move within the next few years, you might want to wait until you are in a more stable position. As we have mentioned before, renters have more flexibility. It can be risky and expensive to buy if you end up needing to move again within a few years. Now, here are a few affordable housing resources. Now, there are several resources to help with down payment and closing costs. The Maryland Mortgage Program, which provides down payment and closing costs and has several programs that you can check out. You have the MMP First Time Advantage Program, the Special Assistance Grants, the Maryland Home Credit, as well as the Maryland Smart Buy Program. The Howard County Department of Housing and Community Development Mortgage Program also has several programs that provide homeowners with down payment and assistance with closing costs as well as home buying education workshops. As I said before, this can be an overwhelming process for individuals, and you may want to get professional help to help you with your decision on whether to rent or to buy. And you can get free financial counseling help through Touchstone's Financial Wellness Services. To schedule a consultation or appointment for free, you can contact me, Renee McElroy, through my email or by calling 410-707-1378, and I will be happy to sit down with you and go over your personal questions and provide you with any additional resources to help you in making this important decision. Thank you again for joining us for Home Buyers Basic.